Welcome back to Yang Daily. I'll be your host, Alex Cheney, bringing you all the Yang news you need to live your life right. So, there were like 20 news items that I intended to get through today, and we made it through one. It's complicated. Quick shout out to our Tier 3 patrons, Shay Meehan and Nathan Stankowski, as well as all our other patrons. You keep us all informed and engaged. If any of you out there want to join these advocates of humanity first and independent journalism, head on over to patreon.com/yangdaily. It would only take a couple of bucks a month from each listener to keep this podcast and community going and growing into the future. Now on to the news. So the Maricopa County audit. We haven't talked about it yet, I haven't been following it myself, and I hate to take time away from other issues, but it is a focal point in the war on democracy, so we should probably cover it. They just had a hearing to report preliminary findings and bandied about some pretty audacious insinuations, so let's look into it. Prepare yourselves. First, the background. 4 publicly funded internal audits have already been conducted of Maricopa County's 2020 election results. 3 hand count sample audits and 1 forensic audit of voting equipment. None have found evidence of widespread voter fraud or voting irregularities. That wasn't what the GOP wanted to hear, so the Arizona's GOP-controlled state Senate commissioned a 5th audit from an independent contractor. As a result, Maricopa County turned over 2 million ballots, 385 voting machines, 8 terabytes of data, including tabulator logs, voter records, clones of servers, and images of early ballot affidavits and ballot images to the Arizona Senate. The Senate then gave all of that to the crack Florida firm they selected to conduct the audit, Cyber Ninjas. No, seriously. Fast forward to today, at the hearing, officials from Cyber Ninjas made many claims which implied election fraud, claims which the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors were quick to debunk as misinformation. For example, Cyber Ninjas claimed 74,000 more mail ballots were received than sent, implying fake votes were manufactured. The board says that Cyber Ninjas are either misunderstanding or intentionally misrepresenting the way that votes are recorded. Not surprising, ninjas are known for deception. Early in-person ballots are treated the same as mail-in ballots and tallied together in Maricopa. It's entirely reasonable to have the early in-person votes combined with mail-in ballots be greater than the number of ballots mailed to voters. In another claim, Cyber Ninjas said that 11,000 names were added to the voter rolls past Election Day and had their ballots counted. The board finds this is, again, Cyber Ninjas misrepresenting or misunderstanding election procedure, this time regarding provisional ballots, which are not added to the voter rolls until the voter has been verified as eligible to vote. There were 18,000 provisional ballots, 7,000 were discarded because they were not registered to vote. Thus, 11,000 voters added to the rolls after Election Day. Cyber Ninjas also floated the possibility of overvoting from bleed-through on ballots caused by some voters using felt-tip pins, a claim that was long ago debunked as the ballot's voting bubbles obviously do not align with those on the other side of the page. In fact, there was even an ad explaining this during the election to let voters know ink pens are fine. Anyway, the dynamic goes on like that. You can see the rest of the fact-checking in the linked thread. The board's chairman, Jack Sellers, didn't mince words. Quote, "At today's briefing, the Senate's uncertified contractors asked a lot of open-ended questions portraying as suspicious what is actually normal and well known to people who work in elections. In some cases, they dropped bombshell numbers that are simply not accurate. What we heard today represents an alternate reality that has veered out of control since the November election. Senate leadership should be ashamed they broadcast the half-baked theories of the deep rig crowd to the world today. Finish your audit, release the report, and be prepared to defend it in court." End quote. So, the question becomes, who to trust, these auditors or the county officials? Well, here's what we know about the auditors. Cyber Ninjas has never conducted an election audit. Their legal department, listed as a 4th-floor suite, is a rented mailbox in a UPS store. According to reporters, every extension number called leads to CEO Doug Logan. Tony Summerlin, who has known and worked with Logan for 15 years, says, quote, "He has absolutely no background or skills in this area," end quote. CEO Logan wrote documents and tweets filled with Stop the Steal rhetoric and promoted related debunked conspiracy theories like Hugo Chavez smuggling voting machines. Most relevant, he directly claimed the election was rigged against Trump. So, in short, the perfect candidate for an unbiased audit of our Democratic election. But wait, it gets better. The Senate gave Logan 150 grand for the audit, but the amount Cyber Ninjas has received from Trump supporters tops 1.6 million, meaning almost all the auditor's funding comes from people wanting to see a particular outcome. But hey, when's profit incentive ever biased results? State records show no safeguards controlling where the money comes from, how it can be spent, or even reporting who it came from. The Senate is skirting state transparency laws. The Senate spokesman for the audit acknowledged that the state is not exercising any oversight or control over it. Okay, well, that all sounds great, but what has this contractor done so far? Well, they've been investigating all the conspiracy theories. They checked the origin of the machines, they put the ballots under UV light to check for secret watermarks, they looked for traces of bamboo to investigate Trump's claims of fraudulent votes from Asia, you name it. In the process, they've made a few mistakes, errors you might expect from first-time auditors, such as providing pins that can interfere with the counting machines, allowing unauthorized access to secure areas, letting a Republican who was a candidate in the race and also a Stop the Steal rally goer help count the votes, planning door-to-door canvassing to ask people about whether they voted, which the DOJ shut down because it likely violates voter intimidation laws, and my personal favorite, conducting part of their audit at a carnival with guards posted to keep Crazy Times carnival goers away from the ballots housed in the same building as the public toilets. Carnival goers, get it? Seems all on the up and up to me. Strangely, Democrats took issue with some of this and sued over the security of voter information, machines, and ballots. Cyber ninjas also haven't been too interested in the transparency that they've supposedly been hired to provide. They fought unsuccessfully in court to keep their audit processes secret, and news media had to sue to gain access to their audit. Only a couple of Republican senators were allowed to question the audit team at the hearing. Democrats said they were not invited to participate beyond sitting silent in the audience. But most relevant is their record of accurate statements. First, Cyber Ninjas anticipated an attack by left-wing militants, which never happened. Then, in May, the audit office issued this bold statement, quote, Maricopa County deleted a directory full of election databases from the 2020 election cycle days before the election equipment was delivered to the audit team. This is spoliation of evidence, end quote. It was, of course, immediately repeated by Trump and the Trumpkins. It's quite the accusation, must have had very strong evidence. I think you see where this is going. Shortly after the board provided some helpful tips, Cyber Ninja miraculously found that they did have the files. Turns out they simply didn't know what they were doing when they tried to open them, and thus assumed they were missing. Picture a child trying to open a twist-top bottle, a freshman middle schooler trying to open their locker for the first time, a virgin trying to unhook a bra. You get the idea. That's essentially who the Arizona GOP have entrusted all the county's confidential election data and machines to, with no oversight of any kind. Fabulous. To put it mildly, there may be some reason to doubt the auditors. As the executive director of the Center for Election Innovation and Research put it, quote, they handed ballots over to an inexperienced, out-of-state firm and then said, fundraise off this, get as much money as you can, end quote. The audit was supposed to end in May. Instead, Arizona Senate President Karen Fann said Thursday that the legislature needs more materials and data from Maricopa County, including computer network routers. The county has refused to provide its routers, saying it would create a security risk, and for no reason, as it does not use the internet or routers to transfer election data during elections. Fann said during a hearing at the Capitol that she expects the demands for additional materials will end up in court. It almost seems the plan is to keep the audit going indefinitely. That suits the GOP, as they can continue to claim election fraud is being investigated and delay having to prove their findings. And it certainly suits cyber ninjas, as they can continue co-opting Trump's scheme of fundraising off conspiracy theorists. It's a win-win. The only ones losing are, rational fans of democracy, and everyone else if democracy fails. And giving these yahoos the election material means it's forever contaminated. But the important thing is Logan will be doing great. And that'll do it for today's Yang Daily. Bookmark and share the Maricopa audit thread. Flood Congress with calls, tweets, faxes, and letters using the Resist bot or Income Movement easy contacts below. If you need help, consult Humanity Forward, the Income Movement Aid Database, the Mission Asset Fund, or United Way, and don't forget to Yang Daily.